During the 2015 general election campaign, 3 ITV nations and regions embarked on 3 very ambitious projects.
Tonight on this stage, 6 political parties battling for your vote. There was a huge sense of occasion and a huge sense of scrutiny.
To host a special election debate out of the studio and in the heart of their communities.
Can you be proud of an economy where people are having to use food banks? From the start, we all knew how important it was, and we knew how important it was to get it right.
In this film, we'll hear from the presenters, producers and production specialists at ITV Wales, Granada and Calendar on how their teams set about making a programme of this scale and what other newsrooms can learn from their experience.
Here in the audience we've got politicians, campaigners, doctors, farmers and immigrants themselves.
It just makes you realise how important it is for ITV to be doing something like this and doing more of it.
Hello and welcome. Tonight we're in Liverpool at St George's Hall. A very warm welcome.
Good evening. I'm Adrian Masters. Welcome to the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama.
Good evening and welcome to this special debate. We're here at Kelham Island Museum.
These were 3 very different debate formats. In Wales, the team set about planning a 2-hour debate programme live in prime time.
The debate programme in Wales was a hugely ambitious programme. It was the first time we've ever hosted a 2-hour political debate programme with 6 party leaders live in prime time. So not only was it a huge challenge for the team, but also a huge challenge for me personally, because I'd never worked on a programme like this before, so it was completely new to me, which was hugely exciting, but also brought with it its own challenges and obstacles as well.
It was just a different experience completely. We had 8 cameras, including a jib, a giant audience in a location we weren't familiar with, and basically one day to set it up. So turning up in the morning, setting it all up, and transmitting 8 o'clock that evening till 10.
We have a panel of 5 North West politicians.
At Granada, it used its 6 o'clock news programme to dedicate a live 30-minute debate.
The big challenge was not only setting up a programme of such ambition and size and scale, but also keeping the day-to-day going as well in a more than satisfactory manner, because we aren't a let's get a programme out type of channel. We wanted to get great programmes out every night, but in the meantime have this big project bubbling under.
It was an immense challenge. Our most important election special, that meant it had to be from a fantastic location, the best we could get. It had to have all the best ingredients. But not only that, it was a case of saying, how can we achieve all that with really as minimal cost and without therefore bringing in, you know, a massive sort of OB truck.
Boston has seen the largest rise in immigration of anywhere in the country.
While at Calendar, the team recorded a 60-minute as-live debate focused specifically on immigration, which was later edited to 10 minutes and aired at 6 o'clock.
It's about time you politicians stop arguing and infighting and everything else that you're doing. Got off your backside.
We had myself, another producer, we had Mark Whitty as producer, we had a director, we had 3 cameras, we had 2 sound guys and a sound desk engineer. Not to mention the people we had to hire for stage blocks and all the rest of it. I think we probably had about a team of about a dozen people committed to it at the end of the day, with editors and such like. And it's what it needed.
What is it that you're concerned about in Hex?
But though the debates differed in their approach, the challenges were very similar. For Wales, Granada and Calendar, the success of their respective programmes lay in the planning. And for all 3 newsrooms, that process began by securing the perfect backdrop for the debate.
The planning for the debate really started in January when we were on the hunt for a venue. And the venue that we chose was the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama, mainly because it was a beautiful theatre setting. It didn't need much set design or dressing and worked well for what we were looking for.
We discussed venues, we went and actually looked at the locations that way. In the end, the compelling architecture and the compelling venue of St George's Hall in Liverpool just absolutely fitted. It had the splendour and the grandeur and the authority that we felt we needed. We could fit a large audience in, and they were superb, and it was all for the right price. So it was just great, you know, down to where can we fit not 1 but 2 satellite trucks, because we needed the backup of the dual channel, which was the way we did it, by borrowing ITV Wales satellite truck, through to the access of all the people. It was just an obvious solution in the end.
Well, we looked at a few venues, but a lot of them felt kind of clinical. They were conference centres. They just felt a bit sterile, really. And then when we saw Kelham Island Museum, it just felt perfect because it looks great, but also because it's got that connection to Yorkshire's past.
The heritage of Sheffield Steel is very much tied in with the heritage of immigration in this country. Lots of migrants worked in the Sheffield Steel industry. The space itself was great. We had to hire some platforms, some staging blocks, and it just provided a really good backdrop so we could run a package beforehand, given a little bit of a setup. We got the drone up to give us some nice GVs, and we just talked a little bit about how the history of our part of the world and the history of the industry of our part of the world is tied in with the history of migration to this part of the world.
Once the venue was booked, the task for the editorial teams was to fill it.
The planning was kind of split into two parts, with two teams doing different roles but interconnecting roles. So you had the editorial team, you had Dan, who booked the panel and got a really strong panel featuring 5 very relevant Northwest parliamentary candidates. Good voices, good opinions, good talkers. And then, of course, we had to get an audience, so we were booking them.
We invited 200 audience members who all had to be politically balanced. That was a real challenge because we had to make sure we had that balance. We had a wide range of faces, that the people in the audience were very diverse and they came from all parts of Wales. And we did that really through our contacts here. We used the diversity panel as one means of getting people into the audience, and also through different political parties and various different organisations and charities.
Getting the audience right was probably the most important thing. At first it felt like 50 or 60 was a lot of people, a big number, but then as soon as people come back and you tell them the opportunity that you're giving them, we used our diversity panel, who we knew were politically aware, sensitive, and would engage with the topics that we wanted to talk about. We also went back to some of the schools that we used in the schools debate earlier on in the year, again because we knew those people were politically engaged, we knew that they would care about what we were doing.
This was a really ambitious project. We had to get 30 to 40 people with different views and different demographics into one place, so that we had different people to call upon for those views during the programme. So it was really quite a challenge, yes.
We knew our viewers cared about this issue because our polling told us that, but the political parties were trying to bury it. So the challenge really was to get the politicians to take part in the first place, and then to try and balance the debate by having immigrants themselves and viewers who've been affected by immigration, so that we were hearing from voices that we don't always get to.
For production specialists, the debate provided a huge technical challenge that required communication with teams across ITV and beyond.
We were following ITV guidelines on sort of dual path feeds for resilience, which was a new challenge for us. We had to speak to a lot of different departments within ITV, media logistics, and to Ericsson directly, so there were several meetings beforehand to discuss all the detail of that, which is really interesting to be part of.
We did use an external company for the vision mixing desk and for cabling, so we could put all the cameras together. But again, we used all of our cameramen, all 5 of our staff cameramen and their cameras. The challenging bit was sound, which in the end we took advice and we boomed it and hired in 2 specialist sound boom operators, which was, a really great help. But, the sound was mixed by our own team, everything was done by our own team, it was lit by our own team, all our production specialists.
Okay, no, I don't want this to become a conversation between just the two of you.
But the debates also provided great opportunities for production specialists within each newsroom to work on a very different project and take on new roles and responsibilities.
The most important thing was all of us, as many of us, on the ground being involved with it. So, rather than going, oh yeah, we'll pay for an OB company who are going to come in and solve all of our problems. No, that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring in all of the production specialists to actually work on this thing, because how many other times were we going to get the opportunity to do it?
We had Di, who was vision mixing. She's done a few things before, but first time we'd actually done a live 2-hour many-camera'd OB like this. We had Anne, who was PAing, and she was first time I think she'd done anything as big as this. She'd been training for a PA for about 2 years, I think, maybe less than that. We also had Jerry, who was a cameraman on the floor, doesn't often get out and do stuff like this, and offered up a variety of shots and lots of information, so that was very useful as well.
It was also great to have so many members of the team on board with it. We could all draw on each other's experience and kind of learn as we go, really. The team here were absolutely fantastic. They managed to link in with lots of the network team, both who were working on the network debate, but also transmission centres, to make sure that we could get a clean feed outside of the Royal Welsh College and got to transmission safely and cleanly. There were lots of backup plans, lots of backup routes to make sure that everything did go smoothly, and thankfully it did.
For a very small team who focused incredibly well on what they had to do, a lot of people doing jobs that they perhaps never dreamt that they would end up doing. It was amazing to see our Granada Reports gallery effectively transported from Media City, where it sits so comfortably, into this stunning building which is so famous on Merseyside. It took us right out into the heart of a completely different community. It looked incredibly dramatic. You know, there's wonderful high ceilings, but in terms of the sound quality, all those sorts of things you have to take into account. And to see all the cabling, all the gallery, all the people in the gallery sitting there in a completely different location, it was a monumental achievement. It really was, and we shouldn't underestimate that.
The number of things that could have gone wrong live on air and didn't go wrong, I could spend all day counting them. But the reason why they didn't go wrong was, A, that tiny bit of good luck, but 99% of it was excellent planning.
Salford, Greater Manchester, a city proud of its heritage. And tonight the setting for a remarkable political debate.
For ITV Wales, that planning involved working closely with the network team in the build-up to the ITV Leaders Debate in Salford, sharing editorial and technical lessons from that 2-hour live debate.
Most important things about the debate is that we were able to link in with the network team who were working on the network debate, which came a few weeks before us. So myself and the director went up to Manchester to see how that programme came together, see how the production team worked together, and also learn some of the lessons which they'd learned along the way, which was great for us.
We're very lucky that we could pilfer the actual ITV set that they used for the Leaders Debate that had been on a couple of weeks beforehand, and we managed to get the podiums and the lecterns rather for that, and we managed to get the, as he's known, the Time Lord, who was responsible for giving each politician a countdown clock, and also had a very ingenious system whereby the time that they spoke was collated and added up, so we could tell who had spoken for a long time, who hadn't spoken enough, and we could tell Adrian to speak more to that candidate than others.
Quite strong, and certainly keeps it peaceful.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm afraid your minutes run out. Pippa Bartolotti. The best decision we took was to be absolutely ruthlessly fair about how much time each politician had, so that we had somebody keeping track down to the second of how they spoke, and I was ruthless in cutting the politicians off. The audience seemed to like that. I know the online audience appreciated it, and in fact the politicians appreciated it.
You have failed in this government to eliminate the deficit.
But while the Leaders Debate in Media City centred on the national picture, for Wales, Granada and Callander the focus was very much on creating a regional debate on local issues.
Hexthorpe is made up of 3,000 residents. Last year, within a space of a few months, we saw an increase in the Roma community that moved in, over 500.
How do you expect low-income families to survive and not plummet into personal debt, with 0-hour contracts and no hope of stability or job security?
We had a lot of pre-filming that had gone on, so we knew a lot of the issues that had really got people going. We'd also done a students' debate beforehand, which went really well, and so I think we got the idea of some of the key issues that people really wanted to address.
You told an ITV poll that the NHS, the economy and immigration were the three things that would decide how you will vote.
Once we'd identified the people we really wanted to be there, we gave them the 4 topics that ITV had identified. And a poll has been the most important to voters in the North West. gave them those topics to think about and asked them to suggest questions to us, and then we just cherry-picked the best ones. It was easy in the end to know we were going to fill half hour with good, solid questions once we got those questions through.
Health in Wales is, of course, the responsibility of the Welsh Government and the Assembly.
People will be thinking, how does it affect me? And they want to see their local representatives on the telly talking to them. So I think the national debates help to create a national dialogue, but then what we're able to do is to dissect that more locally, to talk about local issues